The way that I like to motivate people is I believe there's two ways to achieve the same thing. You can either motivate by reward or you can motivate by fear of pain or fear of consequence. What I like about your question is I think some of what you're asking is how much of your personality do you bring into the workplace and how much work do you allow to come into your life?
Welcome, everybody. Hello to another episode of CEO Open Mic. Today we are hosting Megan Easey. Megan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, my name is Megan, and yes, my surname is Easy. There's no fancy pronunciation. And for many years, I've introduced myself as Easy by name and Easy by nature. I'm born in Zimbabwe. I went to school in South Africa, and I've been living abroad for the last 17 years. What I love about living in Malta is the massively wide demographic of people who live here. So I'm very interested in other cultures and other people. But of course, I'm also mad about gaming.
Right. So, did you move to Malta because of iGaming, or did you move to Malta first and iGaming just sucked you in?
iGaming brought me to Malta, yes.
All right. So, what's your story in that? I mean, how did you get involved into the business?
Sure, it was 2003, and I was working for an outsourced company in Cape Town where we did customer support for multiple industries. At the time, we were very focused on airlines. And I remember the day when a whole bunch of Swedes walked into our company and we did a presentation on the service that we provide. And that was when I first met Mr. Dave Flynn, my forever mentor.
Hmm.
And what I did for them was I set up a first line customer support in Cape Town. And then I was managing their second line support in Stockholm. And just as we had got this contact center, massive contact center set up, the 2006 um, gambling law came into place, which meant that there was no more English support for North America or Canada for that matter. So at that point, because I was then working with OnGame, they invited me to come to Malta and help them set up two new brands called Gnuff and Betway. And that's how I landed in Malta in the first time.
So, do I get the right impression that first you were involved in B2C type of the business and then you moved to B2B? Is that correct?
Very much so. So by the time I moved into gaming, I had gone from running customer support to more on the training and training management side of things. And in gaming, I stepped in from an operations point of view. So I've always been passionate about people
Hmm.
and always been passionate about the customer experience. So I worked in operations B2C for many years. And I would say my favorite job ever was continuous improvement officer at video slots. It was the most unusual way to be recruited, but after a 45-minute meeting with Alex Stevendal, they offered me a job to come and help them improve things. And it's quite a vague goal, but actually a very important one. So in my 18 months with them, I was able to map all the workflows and processes from the time that we engage a customer in acquisition to the time that we potentially can reactivate them at the end. And there's legal procedures that go through that. There's marketing, CRM, customer support, payments, responsible gambling, reactivation. And I covered all of it. But the best part was that I could coach those heads of departments into leaders who inspired their teams. And that for me made B2C super exciting. But the journey into B2B came over the last couple of years. And I must say, it's a very different animal because if you're working in a B2C environment and you've got your finger on the pulse of what's happening with a customer, you have got to spend time in customer support. You have got to go and process payments and see exactly what all the restrictions are and how it impacts the end customer. From a responsible gambling point of view, it's incredibly important that we protect players. And so I made a very conscious choice in my B2C career of working with more regulated operators. Coming into the B2B environment, which I've done now, is working with Paraplay and Wizard The fact that our entire positioning is around not just compliance, but about regulatory and rolling out correctly to our different markets. That for me makes me feel really good because gaming isn't necessarily bad, right?
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah,
around 90% of people are coming on and enjoying themselves, setting their limits and not overspending. It's when you're in the gray markets and you're doing little things on the side that you shouldn't, that you're invariably harming the end user, the customer.
definitely, definitely. I mean, it's like, would you say that alcohol is bad? Of course, it is bad if you abuse it, but just to have a drink for pleasure, of course. Fast forward to today, you are the director of operations at Wizard Games. So the question is, what exactly the job is about? What exactly what is the exact thing that you do? How your typical day looks like?
So, operations is very much like the engine of a car. So long as the car is moving, you assume that all the parts are working together. For me, operations can have a multiple focus. So you do need to be detail oriented and you do need to be process driven. But at the same time, you need to have the right people approach so that those people who are responsible for the various steps in delivering an end product are enabled as individuals. And if you're going to optimize a process, make sure that your team's engaged to do it. So it's a facilitative role in a lot of ways. But I think, we have to keep the end user in mind, whether it's B2C or B2B, because someone needs to enjoy the game. So my job is to make sure that games get delivered to the right markets at the right time with the best quality and they're certified and regulated.
All right. And if I may ask, how many people do you manage at the moment?
Well, if we look at the group in total, it's around 30. I'm directly responsible for a small team of two who then coordinate others. But as an entire group, I report directly to our MD, Ben, and I provide that operational assistance for him in managing the directors and managing their teams.
Right. I'm asking because, frankly speaking, that's a struggle that I have at the moment. Because the thing is that there's always a process that you have to take care of, but there's
Mm,
also a person, a particular person that you have to talk to, and
mm,
it does happen from time to time that process should go one way, but in
mm.
the in the process of talking to the person, you know exactly that you should do something differently. I
Right.
mean, I would call it exception, but frankly speaking, uh, the moment that you do exceptions, 90% of the time, it says something about the process, right? Uh,
Mhm.
so I just wanted to ask, how do you handle these situations? Like, does it happen to you that you focus on a person more than on a process, or what's your
Mhm.
approach to that?
I think that's a really good question, Bartek, because on the one hand, it's all about the delivery. So, does it happen on time? Yes or no? In order
True.
for it to happen on time, there are various steps that need to be taken. And I don't believe that processes should be built as a robust, immovable thing.
Hmm.
We know that since COVID, the whole world has changed the way it's doing business. Many people are remote. I have a very different approach to one group and how we manage their processes than I do to another group. That said, I can use the same tool and the same process for both, but the way that I encourage them, motivate, and lead them will make the difference between how much they maximize that tool. So, Monday.com, for example, wonderful tool. But because you're able to set various dashboards based on profiles, everybody gets a look in, but people feel that they can take ownership of the parts that are for them to monitor.
Talking from my experience, pretty often it happens that if anybody did not deliver on time or within quality, or you name it, pretty often they would have a very good excuse, and typically that excuse drives you as a manager to the point where you would have to feel unhuman to
Mm,
punish anybody for that. Like,
mm,
my mother is dying, my girlfriend is in hospital, things like that.
mm,
So
mm,
that puts you as a manager to the point where you have to say, hey, I don't care, my game, my process is more important than that. did you have these situations? How do you handle them?
There is no ways that I would ever um, try to resolve something by insisting. Okay, and I'll tell you why I say that. Because I think authenticity and relationships and communication are critical. So I'll give you an example with the two guys that I work really closely with. So our product owner of new games and our head of delivery. They both have pivotal roles in the business because they have teams that they are coordinating. If, for example, one of them is off sick, or, for example, there were floods in Chennai just a few weeks ago, we as a business have to be able to, number one, have an authentic relationship with our colleagues so that if it's not a flood and it's another reason that they don't want to discuss, that you've got that trust between you. The way that I like to motivate people is I believe there's two ways to achieve the same thing. You can either motivate by reward, or you can motivate by fear of pain or fear of consequence. So, if you smoke cigarettes, for example, and you want to give up smoking cigarettes, the first thing is, are you giving up because you don't want to get emphysema? Or are you giving up because you want to taste your food and you want to swim and you want to feel healthy?
Hmm.
And they've done studies on these things. If you try to motivate somebody with negative consequences, that motivation will only last so long because fear
Hmm.
is not a good place to come from. But if you motivate somebody to say, okay, guys, we've got 7 weeks to deliver this project, we've got 10 days worth of buffers. Are we all hands in? If we deliver sooner, this is going to be the reward. So you've got the goal, and the goal is the end in mind, but there's a reward if we are able to do it sooner.
Hmm.
And that doesn't mean getting on people's nerves and pushing for things harder. It's simply a broad understanding of what we all here to achieve, and that
Hmm.
people feel motivated by the reward, not by the fear of pain. Carrot and stick.
Yeah, yeah. And what I also witnessed, I mean, I understood at some point of my journey as a manager, was that the more context you give to the people, the
Mm-hmm.
better. People have to understand not only the task they have to do, but also why they're doing it and why it's
Mm-hmm.
important to deliver it on time within quality and all that. Uh, it took me a while to understand it, but here
Mm.
I am. Um, all right, but when you talk about all those things, it sounds all easy. It sounds all bed of roses. Like it's such a relaxing way of living. And what's your biggest challenge?
I think my biggest challenge coming in to the B2B environment is that you're not dealing with the end customer anymore. So you're not going to get a satisfaction rating on a set of products or a set of experiences. It's very process driven, and it's very heavily reliant on individuals when you're trying to work a profit and loss that doesn't cost us too much to deliver what we do, and that what we deliver makes us money, right?
Hmm.
Now, in an ideal world, it would be fluffy and easy and pretty, but it's not. So, what frustrates me is when I can see that something is going to happen, or that we're behind, or that someone's withholding information, that really bugs me because I'm authentic, I believe, and I expect others to be authentic, but that's not possible.
Yeah, it's
Okay?
it's not how the word works, right?
Exactly. And you go to a party, you're not going to like everybody. You
Yeah.
go to a dinner table, maybe you don't like everybody. And it's the same at work. You know, if people don't buy into you as a person, then you have to motivate them in a way that makes sense to them. So I will have meetings with one of my team members in one particular way and a completely different way with the other person. It can be tiring.
Hmm.
So yes, I can draw all the reports I want to show the efficiency of the entire team, but what I can't do is show a report on how much it took out of me to get that result.
Yeah, I know the pain. So how do you, as a person, not as a manager, but
Mhm.
you as Megan, how do you handle it? I mean, are you stressed? Are you like, uh, did you disconnect from all that? Is that's a professional Megan and that's a personal Megan here, or how do you handle it?
That's a really interesting question. I think, in the first place, we all talk about work-life balance, and it's so important, but that's not 100% of the time, right? So I think for me, I negotiate with myself using a model that I call the emotional coupons. Okay,
Okay.
so basically, I believe that you wake up every morning and you have 100 emotional coupons for the day. So
Uh-huh.
some days, for example, it kicks off wonderfully. Everybody's friendly at the office, and you're having a great time, and you're functioning on your 100. And then you go into a call, or something happens, boom, 20 coupons gone on that particular PRD that you just wrote.
Hmm.
Then you could, for example, go outdoors and a car drives past and splashes you. That's another 30 gone. Then you have a distressing phone call with your partner. Maybe that's another 30 gone. But maybe then you go and play paddle, okay?
Hmm.
And you get 50 because it makes you feel so good.
Hmm.
The reality is that in each day, it's like a ledger. And this is how I work my life. In my ledger, I wake up with 100 emotional coupons. And I know in that day that I can predict certain things that will steal coupons and certain things that will give coupons. There are times when you go to bed and you are minus 100, but the good news is it's a new day the next day. You get another 100 again. And so this language works really well for me.
Hmm.
So, if, for example, it's been a busy week and a friend says, come out for dinner, and I'll say, I'm sorry, I have spent every single one of my coupons today. And there's nothing more to discuss because I don't have to explain.
I love it. I love it. It's so easy and so mature at the same time, right? I just love it. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
as I go hurtling towards my 50s, I should know how to do this by now, right? But
um,
what I like about your question is I think some of what you're asking is how much of your personality do you bring into
yeah,
the workplace, and how much work do you allow to come into your life?
exactly.
I think it's not a matter of this or that. I think it's this and that, right? So I can be disciplined and lazy. I'm not
Hmm.
disciplined or lazy. I have
Hmm.
both of those elements in me. And of course, you get it wrong, and of course, you fail, and of course, you get emotional, or things happen that you don't expect them to happen. But the point is, I think being present in each day and being fully aware of where you're at emotionally and what you can give, this
Hmm.
is the key. You can't
This
cancel
is
meetings when you've run out of coupons, but you have to get on the call. So do something on the call that will earn you some coupons.
I just love it because I've seen a number of people, especially younger managers, who think of themselves that the more cold they're gonna be at their work, the more what they call professional they're gonna be.
Yes.
Like uh, no emotions. I'm data driven. I'm a manager now, and I have to take like management decisions. That's such a bullshit. It's such a bullshit.
Oh,
It just
it's
does not
bullshit.
work that way.
I'll tell you my trick. When I
Mm.
interview people, I've done this for the last 30 years, I say to them, so how would you describe yourself? Pa, 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 pa. And then I say, and how would your friends describe you? And you know what they always do? Oh, I'm wild. I'm the life of the party. This is just after telling me that they're data driven and process oriented.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
So, how would you describe yourself? How would your friends describe you?
That's a nice trick. Yeah, I think
Hmm.
I'll use it. I'll use it. I've talked to the guy recently who said that whenever he's recruiting for senior management positions, uh, he doesn't really tell the guy that he's being interviewed. He invites the person for a lunch. He invites the person for drinks, and
Mm-hmm.
then after a few meetings, then there's this official interview. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because yeah, I know exactly what you have in mind. All right, so we've been to challenges. what was your biggest, as we call it, aha moment when you switched to the B2B sector? What was the biggest lesson that you had?
It's a little bit like when you B2C can be a lot of fun, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But B2B is a much more serious business in the way that there are not as many variables as you find in B2C. There, if you, for example, like if I'm working with a payment solution, I did a project a couple of years ago about an in-banner solution where a customer, for example, would go onto an affiliate site, click on the banner, and it actually takes them into the game logged in. So I worked on this project for some time. There's really no negotiation.
Hmm.
Right? That's what I
Hmm.
find in B2B. Either you do it or you don't. There's no negotiation. And
Hmm.
so those kind of hard KPIs uh, is quite different to the B2C environment where you can try different campaigns with different outcomes. Your variables are on revenue. In a games environment or payment solution environment, you can anticipate certain performance, but there's only so much you can do to improve whatever you're going to earn. So the KPIs are a bit harder in a B2B environment versus
Hmm.
B2C, in my experience.
All right. Would it make it less fun? Is that what you said?
Well, it's like it's more adult, if you know what I mean,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody's grown up.
I hope you guys don't wear suits and fancy dresses at the office. I hope you don't do it.
No way, we will never wear suits at the office. And I'm a great believer in having a pajama day in winter. Everybody comes to work in their pajamas just one day. It's so much fun.
Well, I'm coming from the IT world, so there's a pajama day for most of the developers every day.
Every day. There you go.
um, all right, we've had a little bit of Megan as a person and as a manager. Let's switch to the business that you were in.
Sure.
So, who's your customer now?
My colleagues, the other directors, so
Hmm.
making sure that whatever operational process that I put in place works for them to achieve the goals that their teams need to achieve. So my first customer is, for me, I
Hmm.
take care of the directors in such a way that they can be effective in the way that they work.
Hmm.
My ultimate customer, of course, is the end user. But I have a way of working where everybody is my customer, and it's not bullshit. I'm not making it up. But
Hmm.
if an account manager comes to talk to me about a particular account, for me in that moment, I have something that I need to deliver to them. And having a customer mindset is critical. I use different methods. I sent a meeting to my MD today and I said the topic of the meeting was how to plant a hibiscus. Because
Hmm.
at this point, I'm now sick of saying what the project is. And I said the requirements for this meeting: coffee, a positive attitude, and a photo of an hibiscus.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, I'm smiling because I think we are on the very same page on that one.
I
I
wouldn't
think
do
I'm.
that for the CTO, though. Forget it. I'd have bullet points, I'd have outcomes, risks and dependencies.
Mhm,
Totally different approach.
mhm. But you, as a director of operations, are you also involved in HR operations like recruitment? You are, right?
Not so much the recruitment side of things. I
Mhm.
build all the processes in the background for the
Okay.
directors to be able to follow those processes, but I also coach those directors in alongside our global HR
Mhm,
teams. I work with our global HR in coaching and developing those directors and utilizing the right methods with which to interview, whether it be
mhm,
assessment types, whether it be sometimes you send a task to somebody that they have to complete.
mhm,
It's for me to guide them, but it's also, I'm going to use Bamboo, which is an HR performance tool. The part that's hard for me is to say, guys, you have to put all your one to ones in Bamboo, right? That's
mhm,
the outcome.
mhm, Mm-hmm.
Very
Mm-hmm.
different approach with each manager. Some managers love that I'm going to be checking this on the 15th, John. Please make sure that it's fully updated. Some people respond to that. Other people are like, okay, where can I find time in your diary for you to take 2 hours out and dedicate to this yourself to this so that it's ready for Friday?
Mm-hmm. And
That's the trick.
you are the one who adapts to everybody, right? Like, okay, okay, that
And the
makes
more
sense.
senior people that I deal with, I expect them to have that same emotional quotient. You know, their EQ ideally is high enough, but sometimes you work with people who are way senior than you with zero EQ, and you have to adapt. That's the rule of life. You know, it's not. What was it? Was the only the fittest survive? That's not true. It's those who adapt who survive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's yeah, that's true. Um, I remember us talking some time ago, and you had that beautiful phrase. I remember I noted it down. Called it was employee journey. That
Ah,
you embrace it. That this is something that which is very important for you. And if I remember correctly, you said that it should be the thing that every organization should really think of and implement. What exactly is that?
sure. So the reference point is the customer journey, okay? So you can
Yeah.
imagine a bell curve like that. When you look at that bell curve, we have our acquisition strategies here. Then they do their first deposit and they move into active. So you've got acquisition, now you've got retention. And everything that happens in retention is about getting that customer to be loyal and to continue spending with you. Then you go into reactivation, where the customers drop off and churn. Now, that exact process applies to humans. So, as a business, when we look at our employee well being, we have to look at, first of all, what are the acquisition methods that we're using? How do we draw people into our business? Then, how do we retain them? And in that is, of course, there's various things you put in place to retain employees. But what you have to have in place is managers who motivate and manage their teams in such a way that those people stay. And if
Mhm.
someone isn't going to stay, like now they drop off, there's churn, we have to do analysis of that churn. My ideal is, let's say, Pete. Pete has been with us for, 3, 5 years, and he's reached his rooftop in our company. We can't promote him further, and Pete has other ambitions. To me, Pete should be able to say to me, "I've reached my roof. Can you help me out in finding the next job?" Because then I want to be proud that Pete worked with me at Wizard and we helped him get the next best job that he possibly could, and we wished him well. It doesn't always work like that. I know that. But that journey, that customer journey and that employee journey in the B2C environment, they are so closely aligned.
They
Unhappy
are.
customers, unhappy teams.
Well, you could actually try and calculate how much does it cost to lose a client, and also how much does it cost to lose a member of a team. Um, Probably very often that would be pretty similar costs to the company, right? Um, but you also do analyze your end users quite a lot. I mean, I think you pay a lot of attention to understand what they are doing, why they are doing it, and speaking about that bell curve, it's pretty the same thing, right? So, uh, how do you do it? What exactly do you do on that area?
For me, it's a ROI model. So the one common KPI for all of us in our B2B environment, and it can be used in B2C, is GGR. That's it, gross gaming revenue. It's everything. Now, how do you take the role of an animator of a video game and make him conscious of GGR? There's a way.
Okay, how?
So, when we do our resource planning and our workflows, and we put those buffers in place, we explain to the entire team what I call the pre-mortem. So before the end. So
Mhm.
what can go wrong before you even start? And that's a fantastic colleague of mine, Camilla, who introduced me to that recently. So the pre-mortem, get everybody together, state the idea, and everybody gets a chance to say, okay, this could go wrong. Then you accurately set the delivery date. With that in mind, if we deliver on time, then we hit our GGR goals. If we every day that we don't have the product out on the operator site, we are bleeding GGR. So what
Mhm.
I like to do is to create a common KPI where we say this is our plan in terms of what we'd like to earn this month. That game can only earn if the art director is putting his absolute best in, if the person who does the QA on the licensing does their absolute best going in. So you've got to have a common goal for everyone, I believe. And in the B2C environment, if you took, so let's say 500 euro, let's go cheap, 250 euro acquisition fee from an affiliate,
Mhm.
bing, and they come onto the site. Typically, they have to contact customer support at some point. And invariably, customer support has to then escalate it to payments and risk or to RG or whatever. So, if you really want to put the performance of the business at the core, you can do a simple measurement of all those customers acquired through affiliates versus organic. What is the performance of that customer in our environment? Because I believe if you tag every time a customer comes into customer support and then tag their spending afterwards, what should happen is you should get a higher ROI between those customers who contact you and those who don't.
I cannot stress it enough, and let's just say it again.
Mm,
Your business as an operator is not
mhm,
just to bring the traffic and squeeze the traffic with the money for the
mhm.
money. Your business is to listen to your customers and understand them and make them happy.
Mhm,
Isn't that
mhm.
what you just said?
Yes, I did a project about 3, 4 years ago, which I loved. What we did was we said, all right, no more customer support. We're going to recruit people, pay them 25,000, 30,000 each. Instead of the 22,000 average in customer support, we're going to pay them 30, 35,000. And these people need to be able to, yes, answer a customer inquiry, but actually they can do payments and risk. They can release payments, they can add bonuses, and they can also handle a responsible gambling call to a particular level. So it's like it's somebody with an executive. They are customer managers because they can literally do up to a certain level everything that that customer needs. Now, we are never going to change the fact that as human beings, we like first contact resolution, no matter
Hmm.
what industry. Okay?
Hmm.
My worst is when you have to phone a switchboard. My worst is when I have to go through an AI bot telling me,
Yeah.
is this your problem? Is this your problem?
Yeah.
Give me a human being who knows what to do. And
Hmm.
in that project, the beautiful part was we spent less by recruiting 10, 30, 35,000 euro a year people who could handle 90% of all the inquiries versus 22,000 20 people who can only manage 20% of your inquiries.
Hmm.
So
But
then you have to recruit people who have a passion for helping others. It doesn't matter whether it's how do I deposit versus um, I've just spent the rest of my paycheck. What can I do?
hmm but I suppose it's not only about hiring, better paid people or customer oriented people, but also you have to give them some toolbox, right? You have to give them
Mm.
some. It's not only talk. It's not only about being nice to the client.
No,
They have to have some real tools to solve the problems. Weren't you afraid, or aren't you afraid of giving too much power to those people?
you've got to recruit correctly in the first place. So, what is the experience of this person in dealing with the nature of these problems? Your training time has got to at least double, potentially triple. And a
Mhm.
lot of it is going to be on use cases. So, continuously having to learn how to solve particular issues. The
Mhm.
other thing is that you have a robust performance feedback system so that you are giving feedback to that person at very particular points in time and that they are feeling motivated and engaged with their work. To give you an example, let's say I'm in customer support, I can approve withdrawals up to €2,000.
Mhm.
Super. Two, I get €50 in my pocket each day that I can hand to customers and give bonuses to because I decide as the customer
Mhm.
support agent. I can see from the system that you're a regular customer, these are the games you like, this is what you like to do, and therefore I can say, hey, Bartek, I noticed this is the third time you're playing with us and you really enjoyed Starburst. Here's €5 worth of free spins. Have a super day. Now, I, as
Mhm.
the agent, have €45 left for the day.
Mhm.
So it's the same as the emotional coupons. I get 100 emotional coupons every day that I can
Mhm.
spend or lose. Agent gets €50 every day to make those decisions in a responsible way to increase the player's engagement and enjoyment. This is
And what are
not
the
pie in the sky shit, right? This isn't like impossible. It's possible. You've just got to invest in your people, train them for longer, and work the business model.
That's so true. I've seen so many times businesses that overspend on marketing or sales and whatnot, and then absolutely forgetting about the customer support, which is the most important thing. What are the KPIs that you have here? I mean, how do you measure if the end user is really happy with the support
Mhm.
or the platform itself, or if
Mhm.
he's not?
Let's first look at how agents are traditionally measured. So, number one, they are measured on quantity. So, what volume of emails and chats or calls can they manage in a day? The second biggest one is the length of time it takes them to solve a query. So, let's say that you've got to have manage 60 contacts within 3 minutes each, and that's your day. Well,
Mhm.
okay, if you want to work it like that, fine. But that means that there can't be any extra customer care. Okay.
Mhm.
So what
Mhm.
do? Do you reduce the goal or extend the time? No, you don't make it 60 calls at 3 minutes each. You make it 40 customer experiences and you need to manage your interaction so that overall you're still able to manage 40 meaningful interactions. And if you didn't, the system is robust enough to tell me, wow, Bartek, you only took 30 calls yesterday, but I can see them, they were all about the bonus tool that broke. And I can also see from those that you spoke to yesterday, they made a deposit after they spoke to you. So, really, well done. So, it's all, it's very system dependent because reporting has to be in place. But you've got to
Mhm.
negotiate this stuff, right? And again, um, if we look at the ultimate KPI for the customer, what I want as a customer, don't make me wait to talk to you. When I talk to you, please solve my problem straight away. And number three, make me feel special. Is that a lot to ask?
It's not. It's not.
No,
That's a human right, actually. It should be.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, as a game studio, I want to go into operators and do a pom pom for Wizard Games because I want to say we really think people are going to enjoy our games, and to
Mhm.
incentivize people, the customer support teams at operators to say, hey, Wizard Games are the best. Go on.
Sounds good to me. All right. So, getting to the more general market, if you were to guess, or if you have any insights or secret knowledge, uh, what are, in your opinion, what are the current emerging trends on the gaming sector? What is the next big thing, according to you?
Okay, so I mean, we've seen in the past how successful jackpots have been in engaging customers. So if we're looking at it from a product point of view, it is without a doubt that the next big thing is crash games.
Hmm.
So it's literally betting that when this plane takes off, it will fly this high, and it's completely random and very simple, and you can play it on lower amounts. So in a lot of emerging markets, for example, we'd make the minimum bet zero point 0.2 cents,
Hmm.
right? So, or if you launch it in another market, you make the minimum bet 20 cents. So
Hmm.
the adaptability of a game in terms of betting amounts is critical. That from a functionality perspective. So your betting amounts and personalization. But looking at products themselves, everybody loves the crash game. It is mind blowing.
Hmm.
A casino game is a casino game is a casino game. But what keeps a customer involved is a sense of this is my game. I know what's going to happen, and we know
Hmm.
that there's no skill involved. Okay, we know this about casinos. But you play poker, there might be a bit of skill involved. You go into sportsbook, of course. Maybe you research your markets and so on and so on. But yes, that would be the way I approach that.
All right, all right, all right. Yeah, I have to say I see that. I see that as well. Um, all right. And by the way, but you are talking to the guy who been to Las Vegas a couple of months ago, and I started playing roulette. I'm in the iGaming sector, and in the basically I
Hmm.
do gambling for all my life. But then I
Hmm.
went to Vegas and I started playing the physical roulette,
Right.
and the fact that I started winning got me into thinking that I kind of understood the game, right? And it gave me the false impression that I kind of get the rules now, and I kind of it's not really random. It
Hmm.
has something to skills. Wow, I thought it would not happen to the guy like me, but yeah, there we are. Um,
You are human, and it's not unusual for a human to think that
yeah,
they've got a special insight.
that's so true. Yeah, that's so true. Um, you just made me wonder. I'm sorry. I'm circulating still about what you said because it resonates in my head a lot. What you said about treating your employees as customers, and
Hmm.
then all that you said about the customer support, dedicating extra time to listen to the people to solve their problems.
Hmm.
Uh, it sounds like also what you just said. We could improve our HR processes a lot
Hmm.
using those principles. Is it something that you already introduced to Wizard Games, or are you thinking about it?
We're doing a couple of migrations. So, first of all, we've got so much data available in Excel, Smartsheets, Confluence, Jira. Every business has like multiple sources of data. Human data sits in Bamboo, for example. Now, when we want to go into 2024 with a more streamlined approach, there's going to be moving things over into a central repository. That's a process. But the thing I think that you're looking for here is my favorite saying. And my favorite saying is if HR wants to know, and if your chief financial officer wants to know, what doesn't happen when you don't come to work?
What doesn't happen?
When you don't come to work.
I see where you go with it. Okay, I get it.
Yeah, so one customer support agent doesn't come to work for the day. That is 40, 60, 30 great interactions that that person is responsible for managing.
Hmm.
So, what happens if that's a customer is at the end of their tether and they come through, but they have to wait because they're short of one staff member,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
If the CTO jumps on a ship and goes to Miami and disappears, what doesn't happen when he's not at work?
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's a
Well, I can.
different way to see somebody's value. But for me, that is very motivating to an individual. Like, if I don't come to work, certain things are not going to happen. Not
Hmm.
because they're overly dependent on me, but because I'm responsible for these things.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
tried to build a buffer around me that other people can take over if necessary, of course. But some things are specific to me. I
Hmm.
can get onto a heavy phone call with lots of tension and calm the situation. That wouldn't happen if I wasn't on the call. And that's where you find people's value. Because, I mean, when my boss gets on the call and he looks at it from his angle, that's exactly what the call needs in that moment. I can't
Hmm.
do that.
Hmm.
So, what
Well,
doesn't happen when you don't come to work?
I think you are the right person in the right position. I think that's exactly what the director of operations should say, and I love the concept.
Yeah, I mean, it's
um,
not all fun and laughs. There are really difficult times. And if we look at what's happening in the world today, that we have a team based in Israel, we have, people based in Ukraine, we have teams in Chennai where there was an absolutely horrific flood recently. We also have to be aware of the world around us, and there are some very deep personal human issues that come to
mhm,
work. And
mhm.
you can't change that. It's about empathy, 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 but also sticking people to their value. So instead of me saying to you, listen, Bartek, I'm sorry about the war in your business, but you need to deliver X, Y, Z. No, I'll say, Bartek, what do you think you can do for us in the next couple of weeks? And if we can't rely on you, what would you like me to do?
Mhm, mhm.
Different way to do the same thing.
That's true. That's true. Empathy. That's the thing. Okay, one last topic for today.
Yes.
Regulated markets, less regulated markets, regulators, and
Mm-hmm.
their influence on how we work and what's our competition, and
Mm-hmm.
if we even know who we compete with. What's your insight on that? What's your view?
The best example I can give you is the Greek market, because I was in Athens just a couple months ago at a conference. And what I liked about this conference was it wasn't polite, it was smaller,
Mhm,
with a lot of people with a lot of opinion. And we were able to very openly speak about the fact that, yes, some businesses will come into the Greek market and be licensed and stick to the rules and have all the right things in place. But the regulatory requirements for Greece are that you can't place more than €2 in a bet, and you get taxed 35% on your winnings,
mhm,
right? So that's if you're a regulated operator. There is a
right.
niche that will come into your operator site because they know that you're trustworthy and you've got the stamp of approval. But if you've got a whale, somebody who's going to come along and spend big money, right? They rather go to an unregulated site because they can bet €1,000 at a time if they want to. And by the way, if they win, they can take their winnings and go.
Mhm,
So what are you going to
mhm,
do? Are you going to have two sites? Are you going to have an unregulated operator site and a regulated operator
mhm,
site?
mhm,
This is the big debate nowadays, and I get very uncomfortable in grey markets and black markets because I'm passionate about responsible gambling. Even if people are playing in an unregulated marketplace, you can still have checks in place.
mhm,
So I think what's cool about Wizard with Play is that we are driven entirely by regulated markets. We are driven entirely by being compliant because we're willing to take that hit of losing customers to rogue um, uh, rogue operators. But the longevity will sit in some kind of balance. I mean, you look at the finance world, you look at airlines, you look at banking, there's deregulated stuff kicking off in every industry. I think you've got to balance it out and base it on risk versus reward.
mhm. So, if you were the regulator today,
Mhm.
now in, say, Greece, what would be the best thing to do? What's your,
If I was the regulator,
yeah? if you are a regulator, not really thinking about tax income, but thinking
Yeah.
about making the market better
Mm-hmm.
and more fair for legal operators and for the
Mm-hmm.
players who want to be covered with all the responsible gambling frameworks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so having that on mind, what would be the best thing to do?
It's a very tricky one because, as a country, it's going to be a good revenue stream for the Greek government to have these high taxes in place. It means that if people go to unregulated sites and they lose money, there's nothing the government can do to support them or help them. There's no
Yeah,
process.
yeah,
So if I was the regulator, I mean, first of all, give people more freedom around how much they want to bet.
okay,
So, let's look at the stakes. What is the amount? So give a little bit more freedom there. I think putting a percentage of that tax into a corporate responsibility program where it, for example, invests in education or sports or something within the Greek community overall. So, like, you go to Greece and there's a wonderful sponsored program for people who go on sports acceleration camps, and this is donated and sponsored by the Greek gambling regulatory body. So
hmm
then people feel like they're giving something back.
hmm
And it's
hmm
not just tax. It's
hmm
like, oh, I bet my sports betting on this site. And you know what's cool? I won 1,000. They took €350, but half of that went to the school to help underprivileged people learn how to play soccer, football.
right.
You've got to be creative and it's got to make sense to the end user.
I'm sorry to say that, but I have a feeling that quite often nobody really cares about end users when it comes to regulators. I have a feeling that most of the time it's just about taxes and that's it.
Mm.
Um, all right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Megan Easey. Thank you for the conversation.
Thank you very much. Been absolutely lovely to spend time with you. Thank you, Bartek.
Thank you, and have a nice Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you, and you.